everyone, this is Boricua Banks and welcome back to Let's Play Seduce Me to the Demon War. In the last episode, we picked up where we left off in the first game, actually, with Diana's route. And we went with her to the demon world, but unfortunately, we were too late to prevent what we already knew was going to happen. The demon lord attacked her castle while she was away and killed her parents and her sister. Very, very, very sad. So now we have a choice. Do I be kind of like, hey, a little like bravado, like she's my woman, back off by clearing my throat? Or do I let him continue doing whatever he needs to do to make her feel better? I'm kind of leaning towards letting him continue, honestly. As much as I want her for myself, because this is her route, I also kind of feel like maybe being a little more passive and, getting along with Seto would make her happy, not fighting over her. So we'll see. Seto was just giving Diana his energy. There was nothing wrong with that. Why would I get upset over it? I wouldn't. See? Yeah, just take a chill pill. I'm not the jealous type, alright? Besides, Diana needed energy to recover from her explosion of energy and from her quenching the fire on the castle. She used a lot of energy. How many times can you say energy in one sentence? Sorry. Diana smiled at Seto and softly pulled her hand away from him, making him look up at her not in surprise but with a smile of his own.
Thank you, Sarah.
See? Okay, we did the right thing then. She just needed some energy from him.
It is my duty to serve you, my lady.
Seto stood and stepped back, looking to his mistress and to me.
Do we plan to retaliate, my lady?
We will. I expect the Demon Lord will come for a second attack, not realizing that I have returned.
Ah. What can we do then? Diana looked to me, a small glimmer of fear in her eyes, but her resolve rekindled and she let a serious visage cover her expression.
I will meet him on the battlefield should he come again.
My lady, you've just returned!
Oh, I totally forgot to save. I'm sorry. Okay. Sorry. I just realized I forgot to save earlier.
That I have. But the Demon Lord will not care if he learns of my return. If anything, news of my return will spur him to attack sooner than later. I must be there and stop him.
Diana looked to Seto with a cold expression, making Seto stand up straight like the guard he was meant to be.
Tell everyone to mend their wounds and prepare for a second invasion tomorrow. I expect the Demon Lord will be ruthless enough to attack in the morning. Let everyone know as well that their princess has returned.
Seto nodded and turned to the door to do his job. Before he exited the room, however, Diana called out one last thing to him which seemed to make him freeze.
And when you are done, please retire to my room. I will rest here for the night with my guest.
Ah, see? She is already choosing me. Woo woo. He's like, oh hell no. He's jealous. I'm sorry, Seto. I'm sorry. I would be totally happy to share her with you, OT3. But if you don't want to share, then sorry, man. I got the stuff you don't.
As you wish, my lady.
Yeah, he's salty. With that, Seto left and closed the door behind him. The way Seto answered Diana seemed forced, but I could understand why. After all, if he had feelings for her, I became an obstacle for him, as I was with her. That didn't stop me, however, from wondering where I stood with Diana. She was going to stay here with me. This was my room? Diana let out a sigh and moved in the bed to rest against the back wall of the bed.
Come, we must rest.
I nodded and walked over, lying beside her. However, instead of Diana laying down, she guided my head to rest on her lap. You're not going to sleep?
Demons don't sleep, dear. At least not in this world.
Why not?
Because if we shut our eyes for too long, then we open ourselves up for someone to take advantage of us, or kill us when we're not aware.
Oh. I gulped, now worried and frightened to sleep. Diana chuckled, however, and petted my head.
You can sleep, however. I will be resting, but my eyes will remain open.
That sucks. Can you truly rest like that?
Demons and humans are different, dear. Demons can function for years without needing to rest, as long as they continually feed on energy. However, demons can rest to stop spending energy. Thus why we have beds.
Oh, okay. Some interesting lore. My curiosity began to peck at me again, but my exhaustion took control of my body. As I felt my eyes gradually shut, I could hear Diana whisper,
I hope that you don't mind me taking your energy as you sleep.
Before I let sleep consume me, I shook my head. It was all right. Diana needed as much energy as she could for whatever the Demon Lord had in mind. I felt almost a bit honored that she was taking energy from me, as odd as it was. At last, sleep consumed me. Despite what was happening around me, the world of sleep was peaceful and calm. For the moment, I could truly be at rest. At least for a moment.
My sweet Isaiah.
Uh-oh. Seto, no! Don't be a creepy evil dude in this one. Huh? I looked around the darkness of my dream, trying to pin down the direction of Seto's voice. Why was he in my dream? There was no reason why he should have been here. The sound of footsteps echoed in my head, causing me to grip over it and look around frantically. What was happening? At last, a line in the darkness opened up to reveal it as an open door. Opening it was Seto with a kind smile on his face, staring into the dark space. What? I looked to him, but he didn't seem to notice me as he stepped into the room and walked past me. I followed his walk and gasped at what he was walking towards. Huh. What is this? Now illuminated by light, I took in the sight of Diana in a jail cell on her hands and knees, weak and frail, as she stared at the one approaching her. Okay, so this is reminding me of that nightmare we had with James being evil. Interesting how Diana's not the evil one here. Huh. Okay.
Seto, what is happening? Why am I...
Shh. Everything is just fine, my lady.
My heart stopped as I watched Seto kneel in front of Diana and slid his hand between the bars to lift her chin. Diana seemed to nuzzle his hand softly and unconsciously, making him chuckle.
Soon enough, I will destroy the Demon Lord and hand you the throne of the entire world.
Uh-oh.
Everyone will bow to you as their queen and ruler, as they rightfully should.
Oh, you feeling like a yandere right now?
Seto, I don't understand.
You may not understand now, but you will in time. I promise.
And then you locked her up? What the frick? Diana crawled closer to Seto, wrapping her hands around the bars to keep her up.
Where is she? What happened to the human?
Ah. For a moment, Seto stared at Diana, looking completely oblivious to what she meant. Hey, I'm right here! Despite knowing that what I was seeing was a dream, I instinctively called out to Diana, hoping she would see me regardless. To my displeasure, she didn't.
Who are you talking about, my queen?
You know who, Seto. She...
Seto silenced Diana by gripping her chin hard, making her gasp and stare up in shock at him.
My lady, I don't know who you are talking about.
Psycho. And here I wanted to share her with you. Why you gotta be crazy, man? Diana whimpered in his hold in fright. Fear painted over Diana's expression as Seto pressed his forehead against the bars to stare deep into her eyes. I felt myself rush at Seto and try to grab him, but my hands merely phased through his body like I was a ghost.
My lady, you must stay here for now.
Why?
Diana's single word died out as she stared into Seto's eyes. Something in her eyes began to shift from red to gold. However, her black pupils slowly morphed into glowing black crosses. What was Zero doing? Using his angel powers, maybe?
Because I have not yet finished the Demon Lord, my love.
My love? Why the sudden change in name? I could only watch as Zero leaned back with a grin.
Once I finish this war, then you may come out and fulfill your destiny, with only me at your side.
Ooh, creepy. Staring at Diana, I watched as she began to shed tears, but they were not clear as water, but black as oil. On her chest, a black burn in the shape of a cross appeared. Just like what happened to James, glowing with some sort of dark aura.
May those useless memories burn away. Remember only the one who has served you his entire life.
Settle! My words were futile, but I couldn't stand there in silence. However, as Diana's tears finally stopped, the stains on her cheeks drying along her skin, Seto stared into Diana's eyes, burning his gaze into them.
Now, do you remember the human?
Who?
Aw. No, it couldn't be. The burn on her chest flashed with a bright white aura before settling down, revealing the permanence it had over her skin. It was a real scar on her flesh, no longer a figment of magic. Seto smiled lovingly at Diana before guiding her head forward and leaning in to kiss her between the bars. Diana closed her eyes and practically moaned against his lips, most likely feeling some sort of energy from it. However, Seto pulled away gently and made Diana pant slightly in need. Was she that desperate for energy now?
Never mind, my love. Forget I said anything.
The heck? Seto ran his fingers over Diana's cheeks, causing Diana to shudder at the touch and let out a pleasured sigh.
Now rest. Nothing will harm you in here.
Creep. Diana nodded before slowly laying to the side and letting her body slowly shift to slumber. With another chuckle, Seto stood and turned around.
That human's life for a stone destiny. A perfect trait, if I do say so myself.
Oh, mentioning that stone destiny again. I snarled and rushed at him, but wound up running through his body and falling to the floor. Seto walked back towards the open door and stood by it to look back at Diana with an almost evil-looking smile.
Nothing will keep us apart anymore, Isaiah.
Okay, he got a sexy voice, but he's evil. I jumped up and ran at him, but as he stepped through and closed the door, I found myself shooting up out of bed to sit up, panting. Gah!
What? What's wrong?
I looked over to see Diana, sitting in the same spot as she was when I fell asleep, and staring at me with wide, concerned eyes. There was no mark on her chest and no crosses in her eyes, which made me feel somewhat relieved. I looked around, trying to see if Seto was in the room, but he was nowhere to be found.
Are you all right?
Ooh. 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 I wish I could save before these choices, but like with James, I felt like it was better to be honest. But with her and with this whole Seto situation, I'm not sure. I don't know. Okay, I'm gonna let it go. Ugh, I hope I don't come to regret this. I had to snap out of it. This wasn't right. I barely knew Seto, and the dream I had was just that. A dream. It couldn't have been real. That's not my motivation. I'm not saying let it go because I want to be, like, ignorant. I'm saying it because maybe if we avoid pissing him off or making him look bad in her eyes, maybe he'll stay sane. I don't know. That's just my thought process right now. Yeah, it couldn't have been real, but it could be in the future if I'm not careful. I shook my head and looked up at Diana with a tired smile. Sorry, I just had a nightmare. Okay, at least we're being honest about that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Diana furrowed her eyebrows and gently pulled me to her, hugging me. I stared up at her as she held me close.
This is what humans do, correct? After someone has a nightmare?
She's so cute. I wasn't sure how to answer her. I felt warm in her embrace and felt myself getting lost within her arms. How was she so warm despite not wearing any clothes? Oh, so let me actually save in a different slot just in case. As the thought came to my mind, I suddenly began to blush red in the face. That was right. She wasn't wearing any clothes. Yes, I've been wondering for when you would actually react to that. Suddenly, the door to the room burst open, causing Diana and I to separate and stare at the intruder. It was a soldier who seemed to be a runner for the army, judging from his outfit.
Princess, the Demon Lord approaches!
Diana was right. The Demon Lord was going to show up today. I looked to the far window to see the sun barely up over the oddly colored purple sky. It was morning, as Diana expected. Diana quickly threw her legs over the side of the bed and stood, pointing to the guard.
Tell every able-bodied soldier to head for the gates. I will be there shortly.
Alright.
Yes, Your Highness!
Man, we're already fighting him. The soldier ran out, followed by a handful of soldiers that either accompanied him or were heading in the same direction. I looked to Diana, surprised to see her ready. How much energy did she take during the night? As I got a good look of her, something about her seemed to have changed, but I couldn't put my finger on it.
I have to thank you, you know.
Huh? For what? Diana turned to look at me with a smile. As she did, I could see a faint layer of purple energy surrounding her form and her eyes glowing completely gold.
You gave me a large amount of energy last night.
Okay. Her voice echoed through the room, making me internally shudder. She sounded almost ethereal, and the power behind her voice almost drowned my senses. It was as if she were no longer a simple mortal, but a goddess. How much energy did she consume last night? As the energy and glow in her eyes faded away, Diana smiled. Diana gently took my hand and rushed with me out of the room, guiding me out of the castle. Around us, servants and soldiers rushed in one direction or another.
I need you there beside me when I face him. You won't be hurt, I promise.
Okay. I followed step by step, nodding in reply. I felt a bit honored that she wanted me with her, but I shook off the excitement, knowing what I was walking towards. The Demon Lord was approaching, and we would be face to face with it. Diana led me through the castle grounds and onto the battlements, overseeing the distance beyond the kingdom, where a large line of creatures lined up and outlined the horizon. I felt my heart stop as the tallest figure stood between them and us. Taller than any man I had ever witnessed was a man I was meeting for the first time, the Demon Lord, who would have been my father-in-law if I was with one of his sons. The mere sight of him sent fear down my spine. But this was the man who hurt Diana, so he was my enemy.
City of Lilith, rejoice! You will fall before the sun reaches its peak!
Diana released my hand and stepped between the embrasures of the wall and walked through the air towards the ground like she was descending an invisible staircase. As she did, I jumped at the sound of the soldiers on the ground pointing their weapons towards the incoming army. Diana's voice bellowed through the air, causing the line of creatures to step back in fear. As her feet touched the ground, the air seemed to pulse with energy. However, the Demon Lord stepped forward with a dark grin.
Succubus! You have returned. You have failed to bring my sons home, it seems.
Darn.
Reme posteres miestri picmae, nihil tibi tibio.
The Demon Lord laughed at whatever Diana had shouted, making me worried for Diana. She'd be okay on her own. She stepped forward a couple of feet before pointing her palms towards the ground. So those are her wings? Okay. Before my eyes, on Diana's back, the marks adorning her skin began to dance and weave before detaching themselves from her body and forming two large demonic wings. Looks kind of strange though, I don't know. Maybe because they don't have any textures on them, so it looks weird. They flapped against the air in unison, causing a large gust of wind to push forward.
Soldiers of Lilith, come to my side if you wish to shed my enemy's blood!
As Diana spoke, the soldiers who had gathered at the front rushed forward and stood in two lines at Diana's sides, pointing their weapons at the Demon Lord and his army. In number, Diana and her soldiers were outmatched 10 or 20-fold. However, something told me that the battle would be in Diana's favor. At my sides, a large line of archers positioned themselves and aimed at the army, ready to fire on command.
Steady, men!
I looked to the side to see Seto walking down the line with his hand raised, waiting for a signal. However, the sight of him made me remember how he was in my nightmare. Could he be as evil as he was then?
Patro verdis! Astit covivo mimica!
From Diana, a large, thick tendril with a gigantic mouth began to quickly sprout and spill out from a magic circle floating above her chest, sliding around her body and down towards the ground. As I stared, I could recognize the shape of the mouth from when Diana first met me, when she dangled me over it before letting me make a deal with her. Oh yeah, I remember that. Soon, the tendril released itself from Diana's body and took physical form with purple and black scales. A head formed where its teeth was, convulsing with new moment. I don't know. Movement, maybe? As a wicked purple tongue lashed from its newly formed mouth. A giant 100-foot snake now stood between the Demon Lord's army and Diana's army. It hissed at the creatures in the front line and quickly began to slither forward in hunger. I didn't get a chance to watch it attack. I turned back to Diana to see her lift up off the ground and form a purple saber in her hand, lifting it above her head.
For the pride of Lilith, to battle!
The music is so epic. At her last word, Diana flew forward and slashed through the air, causing a large purple arc to shoot out of her saber and strike down a section of the Demon Lord's front line. I watched as both armies charged forward towards each other and began to clash swords. Beside me, a rain of arrows flew from the battlements down towards the incoming section of the Demon Lord's army, causing me to duck in case they returned fire. To my surprise and glee, the Demon Lord's army couldn't push Diana or her army back. They held their positions and cut down every enemy that came at them. The Demon Lord, instead of fighting, glared as Diana flew through the air, cutting down sections of the army with ease. The snake that Diana had summoned was dealing major damage to the enemy as well, carving through the lines and devouring handfuls of them at a time. Each time it did, it either got bigger or became much more menacing. I could barely take it all in. The battle was merciless, seemingly endless. Diana's army was small, but had strong morale, cutting through the Demon Lord's men with ease. The archers beside me continued raining arrows on the incoming soldiers, hoping to nickel and dime their numbers for the ground troops. I was glad that Diana wanted me there, but I knew that I wasn't ready to fight in a war, so I kept crouched to watch the battle safely. Well, in this one we're not getting the training like we did in the other path. Eventually, Diana's army began to push back, forcing the enemy soldiers to either retreat or try to regain ground. Diana, however, decided it was time to deal with the real threat, and swooped towards the Demon Lord. Both demons arced their weapons at each other, Diana with her saber, and the Demon Lord with a giant sword and clashed steel. As they did, purple flame and red lightning spasmed from the impact and pressed against each other in a battle of strength. The Demon Lord looked so much bigger than Diana, but somehow Diana matched his strength and did not budge in the parry.
How? You cannot be this strong!
You know nothing of true strength!
Get him, girl, get him! Some of the battling around the duel stopped just from the sheer sight of Diana matching the Demon Lord's power.
I am the Princess of Lilith. I will defy your will and save this world from your tyranny once and for all!
A collective gasp echoed through the air as Diana somehow managed to push back against the Demon Lord, forcing him to step back in the parry. Diana was doing it. She was defeating him. The Demon Lord slid his sword from the parry and swung again at Diana, making her block, but failed to push her back. He repeated his attack twice, 3 times, but continued to be pushed back each time. The soldiers around them took in morale inspiration and fought back tenfold, forcing the Demon Lord's army back over the arching horizon. Diana and the Demon Lord, however, continued to clash swords, beating steel to steel. As the Demon Lord finally jumped back, he formed a large ball of red lightning in his hand, shooting it towards Diana like a flash of thunder. Uh-oh. The attack impacted, sending Diana flying back, but with her wings, Diana managed to flip back to face the Demon Lord with ease. In retaliation, Diana formed a spiraling set of purple fireballs above her hand and chucked them at the Demon Lord. With a glare, the Demon Lord slashed through each ball, forcing them to dissolve into the air.
Isaiah!
Diana glared hard in reply before flying at her opponent, slashing through the air with her saber. From there, it became a battle of blades and close-range magic attacks. Neither side would give in, and no soldier dared to step in, afraid of being the victim to one of their attacks. The duel became blurred by the sheer speed passing between them, frantic and powered at once. It was slightly dizzying. Oh, okay. So, we are going to leave this episode right here, actually. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you're enjoying this, and until next time, have a nice day. Bye!